Good morning, everybody. I've come out here today to fire my duck effigy pot. This is pot number 4 in the Salado Challenge. So what you're looking at here is what's called the primary fire. This is just intended to build a bed of coals that the pots will be stacked over and to preheat the pots to drive out any remaining moisture. So while the pots are preheating, let me take you back and show you how I made this duck effigy pot. The original pot is in the collection at Eastern Arizona College, and it has been heavily repainted. I started out with this lump of reddish brown clay, and I just patted it between my hands the way you would make a tortilla, made it into a large pancake of clay, and then pressed that down into my puki. And then I pinched the sides up so they're coming straight up out of the puki. And then I just took this obsidian blade and I trimmed that off even so I was ready to add my first coil. And now I'm using a gourd rib tool made out of a gourd, and I'm just using the damp rib tool to smooth the inside of the pot. Now pay attention, I'm making sure that the edges come up from inside the puki and don't overlap the edge of the puki. Now I'm adding my first coil and I'm attaching it with a firm downward bonding pinch. And now I'm just pinching that coil thinner and even to bring up the walls of my pot. And now here's that damp gourd rib again, and I'm using it to scrape the outside of the pot smooth. And then I'll come around and use it to scrape the inside of the pot smooth as well. And then get rid of my excess clay that has accumulated from the scraping. Now I'm ready to put on another coil, and I just lay that on top, and again with the bonding pinch attach that coil to the body of the pot and then pinch it thinner and pinch it up, and then using that gourd rib to scrape the outside of the pot and then the inside, and then just kind of shaping that opening, and then using a tape measure to make sure that the opening size is just a little bit larger than the original, because it is going to shrink some. And now I'm ready to add my last coil, so I'm going to trim that down even, roll out a small coil, and that will be my rim coil. So this is a thinner coil than I'd used previously. And just attach that and smooth it. Using my wet fingers to kind of smooth that out. This is a good time to pay special attention to the shape of your pot to make sure you get it right. And then a wet piece of buckskin is really good for smoothing that rim. And now I'm going to make the tail to the duck. So I'm just patting out another slab, and I'm just going to try to cut that tail shape I want. Now that's a little big, kind of out of proportion, so I'm going to trim off about half of this, make it quite a bit smaller. And then just smoothing the edges, and then scarifying the pot where it's dried a little bit so that I can get that tail to attach good. And just pressing it down into there. Using little bits of damp clay in that space to kind of fill it in and smooth it out. And there's the tail. Now I'm going to do a similar thing with the head. I'm going to scarify the side of the pot, and now I'm going to cut a hole so that the neck will be hollow. And I'm just going to coil up the neck right on the body of the pot here. And another coil. And I'll be about ready to add the head once I get this smoothed out. Now for the head, I just kind of shaped a ball of clay into the shape I wanted. And now I kind of need to cut and trim that neck so that it is the right shape to accommodate the head. And then I just gouged out kind of a little hole in the back of the head just so it's as hollow as possible so it'll dry evenly. And then just using some wet clay to kind of attach that. And that's pretty much the basic overall form of the pot. So now that it's dried a little bit, I need to deal with the bottom. You'll see that the part where it was in the puki is kind of crusty and it has a little bit of an edge where the edge of the puki was. So I'm using this deer rib to just scrape down that edge and kind of smooth out the bottom. And that works pretty good for scraping down those high points, that little rim you get at the edge of the puki, and also getting rid of that crusty texture. And now I'm using little balls of wet clay to just kind of fill in any gaps, and then that deer rib and a wet stone to kind of smooth out the rest. And that should pretty much finish up the overall shape of the pot. And then I'll be ready to let it dry for a while. and then come back later after it's drier and work on finishing the exterior. So here's the next day. The pot has dried a little. We're ready to refine the surface of the pot. So I'm using a damp stone to just go over the pot and smooth it out. This is called stone smoothing. And once you get that all smooth, you're ready to start adding slip. This is that special smectite white slip that will hold organic paint and turn it black. And I'm using a yucca brush to apply that, just an outline of where I want the white areas. And then later I'll fill those in. The way you make Tonto polychrome is you only paint the white in the areas that are going to be white, and you only paint the red in the areas that are going to be red. So you kind of have to be careful that you don't overlap that. Now here's that big yucca brush I made in a previous video for applying slip, and I'm just painting. This is not even actually a slip. This is a hematite wash, so it's just some red ochre mixed up with water, and just applying that directly to the clay. And if it's still damp when you do that, then you can polish it in and make it permanent. So I need to go over everything with the red that is brown now. And so that means being careful not to overlap your white anywhere, kind of like coloring inside the lines. And then once that's all applied, I have to go over it once it's dried a little with a smooth stone and kind of press that red pigment down into the damp clay. And that will make that hematite wash a permanent fixture, so it won't wipe off when it's dry. And now that's all done, I'm ready to start working on the black areas. Now this is an organic paint made with mesquite beans that have been cooked down. And there's a previous video on that too. I'll put the link to making that in the doobly-doo in case you're interested. And I'm just using these yucca brushes to paint in the design as similar as possible to the original pot that I saw in the museum. And this organic paint will, in the firing, burn away and leave carbon deposits, black designs where this material was painted. Okay, once the pot is fully dry and it's been preheated around the fire for a while, it's time to load it up and stack the wood around it and start firing. Two years ago on my channel, I did something I called the Ancient Pottery Challenge. I made a series of 10 ancient pots, replicas. And then anybody else who wanted to could make their own version of these replicas, upload them to Instagram with the hashtag Ancient Pottery Challenge, and then I shared all those at the end, everybody else's work. And it was fun, and I had a lot of people participate in it. So then last season, I got to thinking, what can I do to top the Ancient Pottery Challenge? What can I do that's similar but different? And so I thought, I'll do the Salato Challenge. So I invented this Salato Challenge. I reduced the number of pots from 10 to 5 so it was more doable in a period of time. And then I went to a museum and I selected those 5 pots I was gonna make. And then I invited everybody to make their own copies, upload them to Instagram with the hashtag Salato Challenge, and I would share them all. Now this was almost a year ago. And I checked this morning before I came out here only one person other than myself has uploaded anything to Instagram with the hashtag Salado Challenge. Actually, there's some guy eating salt, but that's obviously not related. Why has the Salado Challenge not done well while the Ancient Pottery Challenge did? I don't know. Is it too hard? Is it too complicated? Is it something nobody's interested in doing? Leave a comment down below. Let me know why you think the Salado Challenge has not done well, and what should I do for the next season, which is coming up after the Kiln Conference here. What should I do that is like the Ancient Pottery Challenge? Should I revisit the Ancient Pottery Challenge? Should I do something different? I'd like it to be related to replication, building replica pottery, but let me know your thoughts. I'm really looking for something to do for the next season that is maybe a little more engaging to my audience. So the way this Salado organic paint works is when it burns off, it leaves a layer of ash on the pot. You have to wipe that ash away in order to see the actual color of the paint, how black it is beneath that. One question I'm often asked is, what were these ancient duck effigy pots used for? Well, I'll tell you, we have no idea. You see, the Salado culture that made these pots ended around 1450, and there was no written records from those times because the Native Americans didn't have a written language. And so from around 1450, when these stopped being made, until the first people came with pen and paper in about 1550, there was 100 years gap that we really know very little about. And so we really have no idea. Now, archaeologists might at some point in the future be able to do some residue analysis or something and figure something out. But as of right now, we do find a lot of these at Salado sites on the eastern portion of Salado, down around the New Mexico border. But we really have no idea what they were used for. So now if this Salado Challenge sounds interesting to you, or you have some ideas for what I should do next season, check out that Salado Challenge video from last year. I'll put that right over here. Watch that and then leave a comment down below about what you think I should do for a challenge next season. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.